Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has repeated a threat to annex land in the Gaza Strip if Hamas does not release the remaining hostages. He's promising more powerful repression if the Palestinian militant group does not meet his demands. Netanyahu also directed his anger at Israel's opposition, accusing it of fueling anarchy in Israel following anti-government protests. The demonstrators are accusing Netanyahu of endangering Israel's democracy by trying to sack his Shin Beit security chief and to dismiss his attorney general. DW's Emily Gordine reports.
In a last-minute attempt to stop the government from passing a no-confidence vote against the attorney general, Israeli protesters gathered in Jerusalem.
In terms of size, this protest is not the biggest compared to others we've seen in Israel in the past, but momentum is growing because for them, it's not just about bringing back the hostages anymore, it's about defending Israel's democratic character.
This is the last step before we are becoming a dictator. It's not our government anymore.
The Attorney General is widely seen as the gatekeeper of the rule of law in Israel. Gali Baharav Miara is also overseeing the case against Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who is accused of bribery and breach of trust. Experts are warning that by dismissing her, the government is trying to curb the independence of the judiciary.
They want to appoint someone more loyal, someone that will allow them to do things that the current attorney general says this is illegal, and also to stop the trial of the prime minister, or at least, for example, to get a very, very convenient plea bargain, because the head of the prosecution have a lot of discretion.
The vote against her came just days after she told the prime minister he could not fire the director of the Shin Beit, Ronan Bar, citing a conflict of interest. Israel's domestic intelligence agency is currently investigating some of Netanyahu's closest aides for illicit ties with Qatar. Both cases, Ronan Bar's and the Attorney General's, will likely be decided in Israel's High Court. But some Israelis are worried the government might not respect its decision.
And you had to bring back.
We put the question to Likud lawmaker Boaz Bismuth, a close ally of Prime Minister Netanyahu.
But we always respect the rule of law. This question, by the way, I would say that this is a very offensive question, because when did I, for example, as a member of parliament from the Likud party, when did I not respect any decision of the court? When did we not respect judges with all due respect? But the question is, you should ask it differently. Maybe you should ask it, is it possible, again in Israel, that Supreme High Court will not respect democracy? This is the way you should ask your question.
For demonstrators, the threat feels real. Many believe the government is acting in its own interest and not in the interest of the country.
Everything is connected around one idea. This government will do everything in order to survive.
Ami Ayalon was once the director of the Shin Bet. He fears for the future of the intelligence service.
Shin Bet in a democratic society, he see himself as organization who is responsible to maintain, to preserve the democratic institutions. It is written in the law of Shin Bet. In a totalitarian regime, the Shin Bet is the guardian of the government, of the king. So the idea of in a democracy, the kingdom is above the king. This is the priority. And this government and this prime minister do not understand it. What he's saying to us, to all of us, l'état c'est moi. This state is me.
But demonstrators are determined to prove them otherwise. That no one is above the law.
Well, I'm joined now by Alon Pinkas. He's a former Israeli consul general to the U.S. He was a political advisor to two former Israeli prime ministers, Shimon Peres and Ehud Barak. It's good to have you on the program. The Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, said in Parliament today that all the talk of a democratic decline in Israel is simply scaremongering. What do you say to that?
Well, it's nonsense. That's exactly what you would expect from an authoritarian leader. Don't forget that East Germany was the Deutsches Demokratische Republik. They're all Democrats. North Korea is the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. They all call themselves democratic. I'm not comparing Mr. Netanyahu to North Korea, to East Germany. What I'm saying is that any authoritarian leader, Viktor Orban in Hungary, Erdogan in Turkey, Trump in America, Duterte in the past in the Philippines, or Bolsonaro in Brazil, they all call themselves reformist Democrats, which means they're authoritarian. And that's exactly what Mr. Netanyahu is. Now, if you look, we probably, Brent, don't have time to delve into the details of each issue. But if you look at the whole picture of what he is trying to do since early 2023, and reaching a climax in the firing of both the head of the Shin Beit and the impending firing of the Attorney General, you see that this is anything but a democracy.
Well, tell me, what consequences, if we were to have the head of the Secret Service and we were to have the Attorney General fired, what consequences would their dismissals have for Israel's checks and balances?
Well, that's exactly right. Checks and balances is the issue. The guardrails are falling fast and falling furiously, and they are being dismantled systematically and methodically by Mr. Netanyahu. Now, with the dismissals of the head of the Shin Beit, but particularly the Attorney General, essentially Israeli democracy has only two effective guardrails standing on their feet. One is the Supreme Court, but the Supreme Court can only answer when it is petitioned or appealed to. The Supreme Court cannot just one day decide to make a position or a stance known. And the second, which is probably the more important one, but is somewhat amorphous and abstract, is the Israeli public, which is demonstrating as we speak now, which has demonstrated en masse in 2023. But it remains to be seen if after a year and a half of war and devastation and agony, it still has the energy levels required to keep on demonstrating on a sustainable basis. I don't know. It looks, the signs are there that the demonstrations, as a result of these two firings, will resume on a large scale, but who knows?
What do you think is the biggest motivation for Netanyahu? Is it his desire to stay in power, to remain in office, or do you think there's something else involved here?
Well, I think it's a combination of two things. I mean, Ami Ayalon, the former head of the Shin Bet that you just showed in the segment, used the Louis XIV famous quote, "L'état c'est moi," I am the state. This is how Netanyahu views himself. In historical terms, he thinks of himself as some kind of an ordained protector and savior of Israel, and thinks that Israel should be more grateful for his glorious leadership. And when Israel seems to be less happy about this or less gratified about this, then he breaks all the rules. Now, the two things that are important here are, one, his political preservation. I just saw a poll that was published less than an hour ago. He would lose in any scenario, no matter who runs against him. If an election were held today, 65% think he should not be running again. And so he needs the perpetual war and the ongoing constitutional coup to preserve his power. The second thing is, the more he stays in power, the more distant he is from the calamity and debacle of October 7th, which he knows is what history is going to judge him for, but thinks that he could somehow change the narrative in a way that would make him look better. Combine those two, or those three rather, and you understand his motivation right now.
All right, former Israeli diplomat Alon Pinkas. Mr. Pinkas, we appreciate your time and your valuable insights tonight. Thank you.
My pleasure, Brent. Thank you. Good to be with you.